The Alien franchise is veering towards the confusing continuity of Halloween. I mean, there was the first Halloween, but after that, how many starts and restarts were there? What canon should viewers accept? It is a mess. And everything has to be looked at as branches from the first film, all sprouting from the same seed, but never connecting with each other. I find the same thing when I look over all of the Alien offerings. While I might like some individual films as standalone outings, I can't accept the new lore they suggested, or accept changes to how I understood things to work. Regardless of what might have been intended and subsequently cut, I want to go by what I saw on screen as canon, and take what added to that, and ignore what contradicted that. Sorry, Ridley, this means a lot of what you tried to throw back in after the fact means nothing to me, other than trivia for movie buffs. The same goes for what you tried to add in your horrible prequels. I will be ignoring them as parts of an irrelevant branch that I will prune from the main lore. Just a reminder to leave a comment if you have any thoughts about Xenomorph lore, whether you agree or disagree with me, and consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel if you enjoy this video. In the first Alien in 1979, we met the ovomorphs, or eggs, which release the facehuggers, which implant something into a host, which then exit as chest bursters and finally grow into adult xenomorphs. The time between implantation and exit was between 12 and 24 hours for Kane, and growth to adulthood covered a similar length of time. Facehuggers had molecular acid for blood, which could eat its way through anything, even several floors of decking. Although not shown in that film, it can be assumed that the xenomorphs most likely had the same defense mechanism. The adult xenomorph was very strong and agile, had a second set of jaws and teeth on its tongue, and a very dangerous prehensile tail. That is all of the lore I will accept. In 1986's Aliens, this lore was continued. Egg, facehugger, chestburster form growing to adulthood. The time needed for the processes was also similar. The only new addition was the existence of a queen xenomorph that laid all of the eggs. Xenomorphs seemed very coordinated and could function effectively in groups, so the possibility of a hive mentality of sorts was implied. 1992 brought us Alien 3 and the end of the Ripley trilogy. The new lore was that Ripley had been implanted with a queen embryo, perhaps due to some chemical signals going out that alerted something that the previous queen had perished. The runner xenomorph in the theatrical version came from a dog, while in the original script it had been implanted in an ox. It was suggested that the movement of the runner could be explained by the embryo somehow taking on genetic traits of the host, a dog, which I reject. This is just how an adolescent xenomorph moves before becoming full-sized. Again, I reject any lore suggesting that the embryo takes on DNA from the host it was implanted in. Any canine trends would be more evident than it somehow running on 4 legs while it was still growing. We saw adult xenomorphs using all 4 limbs for locomotion in the ducts and corridors in Aliens. I accept the lore of a xenomorph protecting a queen, or a host carrying a queen. Nice addition. It might be pheromonal, or it might be some kind of signal broadcast from the queen embryo. Either works for me. Now, I'm sorry if this pisses anyone off. We jump all the way to 2024's Alien Romulus. Alien Resurrection is irrelevant. The AVP films changed things for plot convenience, like having the gestation period take mere minutes, or a couple of hours max, and leaned hard into the host DNA concept, resulting in a xenomorph with dreadlocks like a predator. Crap like that. The first AVP might have been entertaining, but I will ignore the lore. The garbage prequels are best forgotten, as frustrating as they were to sit through. Alien Romulus skipped the eggs altogether, as far as I recall. The facehuggers were reverse-engineered from a xenomorph recovered from the wreckage of the Nostromo, the very xenomorph that Ripley ejected into space at the end of that film. New lore added. A xenomorph can survive unaided in the vacuum of space by cocooning itself. Alien Romulus also showed some kind of chrysalis being used between chestburster and adult forms. And while it looked creepy and cool, I reject that as lore for the creature. That step is unnecessary. There was no evidence of such a step in Alien, Aliens, or Alien 3, and not even in the other films I'm excluding from my particular canon. I have a workaround, though. Another bit of lore I will reject is the ridiculously fast gestation of the embryo, seemingly minutes, definitely under an hour. Plot convenience again, since they would have needed to move things along due to the ticking clock of the research station crashing into the rings. I can use the same workaround, though. Some throwaway lines by Rook hinted at variable metabolism, as if the xenomorph had some kind of control over its developmental speed. However, since most of the biotech was acquired by reverse engineering the xenomorph's DNA, which allowed them to somehow 3D print facehuggers containing viable embryos, I will attribute these changes, the chrysalis and the fast gestation, to alterations made during the replication of these artificial facehuggers. Now we reach Alien Earth, released on streaming in 2025. What do we find? There are ovomorphs, the eggs that contain facehuggers. There are, by extension, facehuggers, which contain embryos. These embryos, once implanted, need 12 to 24 hours to fully gestate, and a similar amount of time to become fully sized, although this part of the process might be slowed by controlling available food sources. Growing to adult size can't simply be metabolic, because where does the added mass come from? There was no chrysalis stage apparent between chestburster and adulthood, so I will continue to reject the chrysalis lore from Alien Romulus. We have the acid blood in the facehugger and final xenomorph form, along with the jaw-tongue combo. We have a hybrid, a child's mind downloaded into a synthetic body, able to hear and eventually communicate with xenomorphs by replicating their language, even when the xenomorph is still in embryo form. Hive mind by some kind of broadcast signal confirmed. This also suggests that the embryo is ready to go and just needs a host to gestate in. No host DNA required. This new xenomorph moves like the runner in Alien 3 in some scenes, so we can rule out canine input. The new xenomorph also recognizes the hybrid as its mother, cementing the function of a queen in the species hierarchy. There you have it. Eggs laid by a queen, containing a facehugger with acid blood, which in turn contains an embryo, which then gets implanted in a host. The embryo grows to viability over a 12 to 24-hour period, chews its way out of the host, and grows to adulthood with acid blood and a secondary jaw on its tongue. Some form of electrical signal can be transmitted and received, allowing for communication with others of its species. That is the lore I will keep. Anything else I will ignore, along with lots of the films cluttering the franchise. If you have any thoughts, disagree with my take on things, want to preserve aspects of lore I have trimmed, anything at all, please leave a comment. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos on entertainment topics of all kinds, please leave a like to let me know, and consider subscribing to my channel. Oh, one last thing that crawls around my mind. In Alien, Ripley blew the xenomorph out of an airlock. It was recovered by Weyland-Yutani in Alien Romulus. Ripley also blew the Queen out of an airlock at the end of Aliens. Does that mean the Queen is also floating in space above that moon, cocooned, waiting for someone to retrieve it? Why not? Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time.